Great to see everybody here bright and early this morning. I'd like to welcome Michael Grand to our 30-minute meeting here with us. Michael is a fellow EO, Entrepreneurs Organization member, business owner. He's ran multiple businesses, succeeded in businesses, sold businesses, and recently become an EOS facilitator. And he's our EOS facilitator. Does a bit of an expert at that, and is all around amazing dude. So I'm very excited to have you here today, and thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
So if I were to, we can talk. There's so many different things we could talk about. EOS, it could be talking about your entrepreneurial journey. I'm a little bit curious how you went from owning a business, being part of EO, to becoming an EOS implementer. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, it kind of happened, I would say, a little bit organically. So we bought our first business in 2012. I'm actually a civil engineer by trade. So I graduated from U of A in 2002. I spent about a decade in Fort McMurray building oil sand plants for large civil contractors. Always knew I wanted to be in business. Couldn't afford to buy a civil contracting company because the machines are so expensive. So we ended up buying a sandblasting and painting company. In 2012, I joined EO in 2013, about a year after, same organization that Mike's part of. And then in 2016, the creator of Traction and EOS, a guy named Gino Wickman, who was also an EO member at the time, he was doing a tour all around, and he did a half-day workshop in Edmonton. And I would think maybe it was my engineering, just the way the process works and how my mind really likes things that are whole systems. After that workshop, we just decided, hey, we're going to do this for our business, which was great. We implemented it over the next year, ended up almost 4xing our revenue, buying three other businesses actually. Then we ended up selling two others. We've since sold the third actually in the fall. And we just decided in 2022, we moved our sandblasting business out of the city of Edmonton to Leduc County. We were buying buildings and we wanted to get our own space, and we knew we were going to lose people, and we did. People just didn't want to drive that far. So we decided, hey, let's re-implement EOS, and my partners and I all decided I was the one that kind of implemented it and ran it. I was the champion the whole way. So they said, hey, well, why don't you go down and see what it would take to become an implementer? So I did, went down to Dallas, met Gino and the community of all the implementers, a lot of EOers in that community. Really liked the community, resonated with the core values, and just thought, hey, I could do this, and learned on that. That was about little over 2 years ago now, and just started picking up clients on the side. I did our two businesses, started picking up more clients, and now I told myself at 15 clients, I would decide if I wanted to be a business operator or an EOS implementer, if I could get there. And I ended up getting there last summer and sat down with my partners and just said, hey, I think I like doing this better. It's really more within my unique ability. It's got a better get up and get out of bed factor for me. I've been in industrial contracting for over 20 years now, and I would say it's a bit of a young man's game. Contracting is hard on the heart, especially industrial. If you've been in the oil and gas business the last decade, it's been a little bit tough. So I thought, hey, I really like this. It's a nice blend of what I consider my personality, my technical ability, and just talking with people, meeting people, helping people, talking business, and watching businesses transform and get organized, and really just seeing people do more with less effort has been really rewarding.
Yeah, love all that. That's a cool story. Thanks for sharing. When we talk EOS, you're preaching to the choir here. We've been doing EOS 7 years, and we're lucky enough to have you as our implementer. What are some of the key things that you think are the secret sauce to EOS? I know what they are for me. I'm curious as to what they are for you and what you've seen in some of the businesses that you've been involved in that run EOS.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a great question. I get a lot, actually. What are the most important parts? It really is a system. You're going to get the most value by following all of it. But I would say the three biggest levers are running the first one for sure is just really running a super tight, effective level 10 meeting every week. The level 10 meeting is really where all the pieces come together and tie the data from the scorecard, the long-term goals with rocks, your customer employee headlines, and then functioning well on an IDS system. And really what IDS is setting up your work plan for the next week. So every time you solve a problem, usually a couple to-dos are made out of that, and you have your accountability. Those are checked on in the next week. So I would say the level 10 meeting is probably the biggest lever. The second biggest lever, I would say, are the rocks, your quarterly goals. So looking towards your long-term goals and saying, hey, what can we do in 3 months to just inch towards these goals? And you just kind of take that 1,000-step journey one foot at a time, or eat the elephant one bite at a time, whatever metaphor you want. Metaphor I use is Rome wasn't built in a day, but they were always laying bricks. And every quarter your rocks are your bricks, and you turn around and you've got an entire empire before you know it. And then I would say the third biggest piece probably revolves around effective LMA. So LMA is an acronym in EOS for lead, manage, and hold people accountable. And I would say emphasis on that and sort of the different layers of leadership that can develop in a company. The more effective the leaders are in LMA and leaders helping other leaders become leaders, I think is probably the third biggest piece that if you really leaned into, you'll get an amplified result from EOS.
Yeah, love that. And I totally agree. When you're talking the level 10 meetings, a question I get a lot is, why do we have to start the level 10 meeting with the personal best and business best? And I explain it in my way, but it'd be great to hear how you explain that to your business. Yeah, it seems to be one of the biggest challenges with businesses. Do people go, well, why does my personal best matter?
Yeah, no, and it is a pointed piece. I mean, the interesting thing about EOS is there's really nothing in it by accident. It's a very well thought out system that has a lot of layers that's kind of been packaged up simply. And I really think that's the genius with it. So with the segue, there's a few things that it's meant to do. One, to get everybody focused and present in the room. It's a bit of an icebreaker, like a warm up to get everybody the communication flowing before you just jump into reviewing the scorecard. So there's that. The two, personal best and business best. You notice we don't have personal challenges, business challenges. We do identify those in the issues list. But in reality, our brains and our senses, we really find and perceive what we're looking for. So it's just a little nudge in a positive direction for everybody in the meeting to say, hey, here's some things that are good. Here's some things that are good. My personal life's good. Things are good. Let's look at things with a positive outlook. That is part of it. And then the third piece is just to get everybody interacting and getting to know each other, just really notching up that tiny bit of team health every time. I mean, we spend a lot of our lives at work. We spend a lot of our time around our coworkers and our people, and to build those relationships and care about each other really makes all the difference in the world. Because a lot of times we'll spend almost, if not more time at work than we do with our loved ones and our families. So getting to know people and starting to understand what makes them tick through what they think is personal best in their lives is part of that too.
Yeah, I really I resonate a lot with that, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we have this call every Thursday morning. Is it gives people an opportunity to connect outside of the chaos of the world that we live in the business and the high growth world, learn a little bit more. When we bring in experts like yourself, learn a little bit more from different angles and different perspectives, because that's the beauty of being present in a meeting, is all these filters of life coming at us, and the ability of being present and hearing what other people say allow you to see things from a different light, which is the power of the IDS.
Yep, exactly. You never know what little things you'll pick up, right? I mean, I talked about Krispy Kreme donuts. If anybody's going to buy one, they'll be like, oh yeah, we should try those hot ones. I might try it. And then, you just sort of build those relationships. And as we grow together as a company and a leadership team, or even just a department on the side, the more effective you'll be when you have that respect built for your coworkers.
Yeah, it's I'm a big believer, and I know you align with this, that if we work on ourselves and we improve ourselves and we show up 1% better, it shows up in all aspects of our life. And EOS kind of has that same philosophy, where you're just continually moving the needle forward. When we're talking personal development, which I do a lot of on this call, we talk about the importance of, for me, meditation or going out in nature or going for walks and being present, like what we're doing in the start of the level 10 meetings. And I know you're an advocate of meditation and stoicism and lots of other things like that. What's your view on that meditation and mindfulness practice as it fits with business?
Uh, as it fits with business, as it fits with life, I would say just in general, getting away from the society that we've built is constantly bombarding us with messages we don't even know. And it affects our subconscious. That's why getting in nature feels so good, because nature's not trying to sell you anything. Nature's not trying to convince you that you're incomplete unless you have this face cream or whatever it's going to be. And like these messages are all around us. I think the number is something like 13,000. We see 13,000 advertisements a day. And we think that they just get blind to them. You drive by them, you see them, they're in bathrooms, they pop up on your screens, they pop up on your phones, they're on our clothing. Like I'm advertising EOS to you right now. And to get away from that is really to help your subconscious relax and just bring the cortisol and stress level down. I think we've built up this constant I want to say, like, people are constantly trying to get things from us, sell us things, tell us things, and it affects our subconscious. Meditation, getting out in nature, listening to some music with your eyes closed, anything of that nature that can bring you away from that sort of constant stress that we have just perceived as normal is going to help you in both business and in your personal life for sure. And I just want to touch on one more thing you said about your personal growth and how, it can maybe help other people. I would take that even one step further, Mike, and say probably the best thing you could do to help people is work on yourself, is make yourself fit to help other people, because it's really a selfless act to work on yourself because you're going to be more present to serve others.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. That's 100% believe that, because then you learn, you share, and other people take a nugget from it, and they learn, and they grow, and they share, and that's what the world needs more of, and less advertising. It's interesting how a lot of people, you say, with our, I'm just going to take a break and watch Netflix, or I'm going to take a break and just scroll on Instagram. I relax by scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, not realizing that your brain is being pummeled on all those things, that subliminal messages and all the other stuff, that you're not really relaxing. You're not relaxing your
No, you.
mind
In
at all.
fact, you're actually feeding a dopamine addiction. That's what those things are meant to do. But they're to make you a small dopamine hit addiction. Social media it's all about that. It's getting you addicted so it can shape what you see and think. That's the only reason it exists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. You think back to, like, when we were growing up. I was talking about it. I was at a conference in Phoenix the last couple of days, and it came up in a conversation. Younger generation. I'm like, the change that's happened in my lifetime. When I was in, 17, 18, 19, we had no social media, we had no cell phones, we had no video games, we had no internet, and it was just come home and go outside, and you're playing ball hockey on the street or throwing crab apples at each other or whatever, getting into trouble. It was a completely different world. Sometimes it boggles my mind. It's, my parents grew up in horse and buggy to cars, right?
Hmm.
And you look at the progress of change, and now we're in a world of AI, quantum computer, machine learning, um, extreme stimulus, and dopamine everywhere. I think the world needs to be able to take a step back from that. We all as individuals need to be able to learn how to take a step back from that.
Yeah, I mean, and the problems have changed. So a lot of our world has gone from problems of scarcity to problems of abundance, right? I mean, when we were younger, um, going to university, having this knowledge, it was it was a scarce thing and it was special. And you have to pay a lot of money to get an education. Most of that you can find for free. Knowledge is everywhere. Availability is everywhere. You can travel anywhere. So we have all these things that were scarce when we were younger. Now they're abundant, and that brings its own problems. It brings problems of overwhelm, paralyzation of choice, like generalized anxiety. Like these issues are now becoming things. I mean, back then too. I mean, it was a different world, but it had its own problems as well. I mean, there was a lot more injuries that couldn't be fixed. Like people, they couldn't get places. You couldn't reach people in time. You couldn't do those things. So I mean, we tried to solve all those and ended up in this abundant world. A good simple example of that is think about how pictures have changed. I mean, we used to take pictures on cameras, get them developed, come back, and then maybe 8 out of the 20 were any good. And now, I mean, probably everybody on this call has thousands of pictures in their hard drive. How many of those do you actually look at?
Yeah,
Right? I mean,
you do photo albums. We have at home. My mom has
yeah,
bookshelves full of photo albums that you pull out and you look through, and it's kind of fun.
yeah. And
Yeah,
now the problem is you can't find a picture when you need it. The other problem used to be you couldn't get a picture when you wanted it. So there's just these different abundant. The problem that a lot of things have changed from abundance problems from scarcity problems, especially when it comes to information. I mean, probably don't have to tell anybody on this call how difficult it is to sort fake news from real news to information to what's trying to just manipulate you to what's true to what it is. I mean, there's a huge information abundance problem today.
yeah, I totally agree. And some people might be wondering, like, what does this have to do with really business? And I think it has everything to do with business because the more focused, centered, grounded, aligned we are as humans, and the more that we understand each other, the more we support each other, the more that it can move the business forward. And that's why I think EOS and mindfulness and all of this, if you IDS your life like we IDS the issues that we have, in our business, it's a pretty powerful thing. I know lots of people have even looked at doing the EOS principles and doing a 1 year, a 3 year, a core target for your personal life. So it's these tools that you're an amazing implementer at aren't just for business. They can be used for our personal lives too. You can use IDSing with family members. What's the issue?
Hmm.
Let's discuss it and move to a solve. That these are concepts that are simple, easy to use for our life.
Yep, exactly. And I think you know what you're talking about is the new skill and the new effective productive skill is focus. When we were back to talking about when we were younger, it used to be having to seek these things out. Well, now we're so good, these things find you, and you're always being bombarded with all these different things. You have all these choices, and really what you say no to is going to be more effective than what you say yes to. And be able to focus on what you need to focus on piece by piece has really become one of the new productive skill sets, rather than sort of being this relentless pursuit of knowledge and all these other things. That's all out there and it's all coming at us. It's really about, hey, what do we got to do this quarter? What do we have to do this week? What problem do we have to solve right now? And what is the solve? When are we going to check on it? Like, it's just slowing down and focusing you on the right things while still having a North Star with your 1 and 3 and 10-year targets to know, hey, are we on the right path by taking these steps?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And making sure that you have a strong team health in the way that you communicate. The one of the biggest things for us, aha moments, was we did the VTO, and you go through all the different things, and then the understanding how it's not just a single thing. It's understanding how you create your vision, and then you create your values, and then you create your marketing plan with your three uniques, and how it's not any single component, it's the power of all of them together. For a lot of
Hmm.
times we didn't market to our three uniques, right? Our personal touch, our commitment to delivering quality, and our knowledge and experience. And when we started to notice a difference in how it resonated with our clients. And I think that's the same with our life and individuals, that taking understanding our personal values and what we stand for and where we want to go, and having a bit of a future plan on where I want to grow personally as well as professionally.
Yeah, exactly. And the team health, I mean, it's all like the three uniques is powerful because of what I said about focus and how attention really is the new currency. I mean, you have to tell your customers why you're unique in three seconds or less, really, with the three uniques. It's really about an elevator pitch. Um, I think the stat is 7 seconds. The website doesn't load in 7 seconds. People will close the browser window. That's just really where we're at today. So to be able to have a very succinct, powerful message for your clients makes a big difference. And just to touch on the team health, uh, because it's such an important piece of EOS, and sometimes I think it does get lost in sort of the systems and the level 10 and the scorecard and all the different parts that come together. But at the end of the day, team health, it's a Patrick Lencioni quote that, more than culture, more than strategy, more than technology, teamwork remains the ultimate competitive advantage, both because it's so rare and because it's so powerful. So that's why we focus on that team health, and we don't skip little things like the segue that are always building it. Because at the end of the day, it's people working together that are going to change the course of a company and be the competitive advantage. You can think of it as like a tug of war, right? The team that manages to pull on the rope all at once is going to win because of the force that it all can bring amplifies rather than having a bunch of strong people all pulling at different times.
Yeah, it's the same thing about, you're rowing you got a 12-man rowing team, or in, Sunco's case, we got like a 68-man rowing team. And if we're all rowing the same direction, we're going to go a heck of a lot faster than you have some people rowing the other way.
Yeah, yeah, and all your strokes going in at the same time. I mean, that's you take it to the extreme example of an Olympic rowing team. I mean, you're talking thousands of a second difference in the strokes is the difference between gold and bronze.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate team because they're ultimate in line. And even just a little stroke difference from your partner beside you in the boat is going to make a huge, huge impact on the actual result.
Yeah, and it's setting it so that if you think you're out of tune or you're not sure about where the alignment is and which way you should be rowing, to be able to comfortable enough to put up your hand and go, I'm not sure, which is great. That's what we want. Or I see an issue, which is, goes up on an ideas, on the issues list, and you discuss it. And, I think that's the really important thing, because that team health gives you the trust that you're not going to be judged, or you're not going to be, belittled or anything by putting up your hand and saying, hey, I see something wrong.
Yeah, that's a big piece of it. Issue identification and the comfort to be able to say, hey, this is not working for me. Can we have a solve here? Or, I need a bit of help or whatever the issue tends to be. And, the leadership team, I work with you folks, Mike, and I always use you as the example. You guys have a great team health. You're not afraid to put the issues up. You always have a big board of whenever we're in our IDS sessions. And when I work with clients that are first starting, it's 5 issues on the board. I had a client yesterday that really was like, well, we don't have any issues. And really, that's interesting because your goals aren't met. You don't have your rocks done, but there's no issues. Like those two things don't, you have the biggest issue, which is the team health issue that nobody wants to talk about the issues.
Yeah.
So that's really the base of it all is team health in order to get that out and feel comfortable that, hey, I mean, these are issues, ideas, information, things that we get on the board and get out there so everybody can talk about them.
Yeah, so we've got 7 minutes left. I'm going to put to the whole group here, if anybody has a question that they'd love to ask Michael, put it in the chat and we'll take a quick look at that. But we've talked lots of different things about EOS, about meditation, about personal development and growth. Is there something that we haven't talked about with EOS that you feel, or culture, or entrepreneurialism, that you would like to share with us today?
I think the biggest thing of, like you said, I mean, these themes can be carried on in your personal life. We do the team health triangle, and for anybody that hasn't read the book, the 5 dysfunctions of a team by Patrick Lencioni, it's in there. And really, the base of an effective team health triangle is trust, and it's really the base of any relationship you're going to have, whether it's at business, at work, at home. If you don't trust people, you're not going to talk about what needs to get talked about. And if people aren't communicating with you, if you can't seem to get through to them, you might want to take a look and say, maybe this person doesn't trust me, and I wonder why that is. Because really, that trust is the one thing that can really move a relationship forward, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in business. And usually it just comes down to listening. I kind of touched on it before you got on with Sean there about, we coach in LMA, but to talk 80% in questions, 20% in statements. So if you want to ask someone, don't be late, is different than, hey, what happened? Like, why were you late today? And trying to understand it with curiosity rather than a demand. That those little things each time will build trust, whether it's with your coworker, with your spouse, with your brother, or your mom, whoever you want to build that trust with. If you talk more in questions and try to get curious about them, that's how you build that trust, really, rather than the statements. In EO, we have a Gestalt protocol where we don't give people advice. We say, hey, this is my experience, this is what happened. And putting words like you should be doing this, those kinds of things erode the trust. When you say, hey, this is how I experienced that, and putting it as a focus on you rather than on the other person is how you build that. So a lot of these tools really can be driven into your personal life. I mean, if anybody's interested, we have personal VTOs for your family that you can look at on what your family core value are, what your bucket lists are, where you want to be as a family in a quarter, in a year, the things you want to achieve. And they really just open up conversations. I mean, you don't have to have level 10 with your family every week or anything like that, but having that guide, you don't have to look very far to see the difference between success of folks that write their goals down versus folks that don't. It's
Yeah.
very well documented.
Yeah, I love that. And if you could share with me the personal VTO, I'll share it out with the team. If anybody wants to do that, that'd be fantastic. I've got right on my wall here, I've got a statement that says replace judgment with curiosity, and curiosity creates connection. And so I totally align with that. Instead of getting upset, if I feel myself get upset, that's a time when I ask questions and dig more, because typically I'm getting upset because I don't have all the facts. And once you find out all the facts, it's amazing how your temperature changes and the view of the situation changes. So that's probably the best experience share that you could give with all of us. And using the word experience share rather than advice giving, right?
Exactly.
Super powerful, because you're talking from your experience, and then what people choose to do with it is their own choice. Just like, for me, meditation and mindfulness and being out in nature works really well. And I think you said that it has for you. You've gone to like meditation retreats and all these cool experiences where you meditate. What's the longest that you meditated for?
I did 36 hours in a week and one 5-hour stint, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m.
That would be another story into itself. So we have 2 minutes left. I always ask my guests to, leave us with a final thought.
Mike, Sean McCarthy did put a question in there.
Okay. I just saw there's a question in the chat there about, does EOS keep evolving, or is it always in stone? It does evolve. So they are changing the tools. I would say it's more of a tweak, though. I would say at the core, they don't usually change a lot of things. One example I'll give is we have 10-year target. They're talking about maybe turning that into a core target, because 10 years, we don't always look at 10 years. It could be 8, could be 30, that piece. We have the quarterly conversation, what we call the 5-5-5. And we used to call that 5 rocks, 5 roles and responsibilities, and 5 core values. But we don't always coach 5 anymore. Some people have 3, some people have 7. So now they just call that the quarterly conversation. So I would say it evolves just in tweaks, not necessarily the foundation.
Okay, great. So now back to you, Michael, to leave us with your final takeaway, thought, quote, Michael wisdom.
I would say the biggest secret or thought quote is, I would just say you'll become what you think about. That's it. Your thoughts. If you think positively, you will have a positive life. If you allow yourself to think negatively, that will reverberate through your life. I mean, you could look at it's probably the one thing that all religions, all gurus, all Eastern, Western philosophies agree on, is that the way you think is how your life is going to turn out.
Love that. Yeah, live into the future that you want to live. Think into the future of the way you want to live.
It's a Henry Ford quote. Whether you think you can or can't, you're right.
Yeah, love that. Really appreciate your time today and sharing some of your wisdom and knowledge with us. It's really appreciated. And thanks again for being a great EOS implementer for Senko and helping us move our business forward. So thank you very much.
Well, it's awesome. Thanks for the time, everybody. Appreciate you listening. And I'll just leave you with the one last attaboy. I mean, you folks are always the example I use as to what my clients should strive for EOS. So you're doing a really good job. Keep it up. It's been great working with you. Appreciate it, Mike.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thank you everybody for joining today.